Have you ever worried about climbing over a chain link fence and ripping out your nuts? Don't worry, because lab-grown testicles are here to save the day.
Yeah!
But don't watch TikTok during your testicle recovery, because Congress wants to ban the app.
Nothing for you.
Once you're all healed up, you can get into a relationship again. But this time, get yourself a hologram girlfriend. Alternative relationships are on the rise. From avatar husbands to relationship anarchy, we're witnessing a cultural shift in love, physical intimacy, and dating. Sound depressing? Maybe you're part of the mental health crisis sweeping the nation for millennials and Gen Z. All this and more on today's episode of The News with Brigida. Researchers have created the first lab-grown testicle organoids from stem cells that closely resemble the real thing. The breakthrough offers a new model for research that may advance the study of testicle development and function and aid in new therapies to treat male infertility. 1 in 6 people experience infertility, and male infertility accounts for half of those cases.
That's a new thing I didn't know about. Okay, how did they do this?
To grow a pair in a lab, scientists collected testicular cells from newborn mice and then grew those cells for 9 weeks to complete the process of sperm production. Now, they're not sure if the lab-grown testes can produce sperm yet, but so far there are signs of early sperm cell production. In the future, researchers hope to grow a pair from human cells, which could help cure infertility in boys suffering from cancer, since cancer treatments lead to infertility in 1/3 of young males.
If I got a pair of these fake testicles, like currently, could they just give me mice testicles? Would that work?
That would not work.
Well, I'm not saying it would be as the size of a mouse. I'm saying it would be based on mice cells and grow to my size of testicle.
Giant mice testes.
Or could I get like bull testicles put in or something?
I mean,
Rhino testicles.
Are you signing up for the clinical trials? Is that what you're saying?
It just sounds really impressive to tell a girl, like, I've got rhino testicles.
I am not impressed by that. I would be horrified. Like, oh my God, you think I'm gonna have like a half rhino baby? No.
Wave of the future.
A bipartisan House committee has unanimously voted to advance a bill forcing TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest the social media app or be banned in the US over national security concerns. The US government worries about ByteDance sharing American user data with the Chinese government, which TikTok denies. The bill has a long way to go before it's officially passed, but if it does pass in the end, ByteDance will have 6 months to divest TikTok or lose 170 million American users. The bill would also make it illegal for American app stores to offer TikTok to consumers. The same rules would also apply to all social media apps under the control of other foreign adversaries, including Russia, Iran, and North Korea. In response, TikTok says a ban would trample the First Amendment rights of Americans and deprive 5 million small businesses of a platform that they rely on to grow and create jobs. This is not the first time lawmakers have tried to ban TikTok. Last year, a Senate bill stalled in Congress because of the app's popularity. These efforts are part of America's ongoing competition with China.
Do you think that it's actually going to happen?
I don't know if this one will pass. I know that people are already calling members of Congress to complain and to push back and say that they do not support this legislation because people do love TikTok. I mean, this app is incredibly popular, and unfortunately, no American companies have created a better alternative. They're all trying to beat TikTok. YouTube now has Shorts, Instagram has Reels and Stories. Everybody's trying to copy the business model of TikTok, but it just really hasn't taken off and gained popularity in the way that TikTok has.
Yeah, so I'm wondering, because like you're saying, TikTok has been dominating the social media platforms for a few years now. How much is the pressure to want to ban TikTok about actual legitimate national security threats versus the threat of a adversary being the dominant power in social media hierarchy? And if we got rid of that, then our United States social medias would go back up.
I think that is a very good question, because if the US government really cared about China collecting American user data, then they should obviously also care about American companies collecting US users' data, which then gets sold to companies, which then could end up in the hands of foreign adversarial governments. So it's so hypocritical that they're going after China, citing alleged, national security concerns over its alleged ties to TikTok, but they're not really worried about what happens to American user data in the US. I think it would be easier to take them seriously, these claims, if they cared about what happened to our data that could easily be passed around by data brokers to foreign adversaries.
Yeah, I think it has more to do about protecting the capitalism and interests of profit of American businesses, than with any legitimate threats.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, this is a power struggle with China. It's a power struggle for technological dominance, political dominance, and China has become America's #1 adversary at the moment.
So do you think it's too late for me to join TikTok, considering I still haven't? Or should I just give up at this point and just not do it and wait for another US company to become it?
I mean, that's a great question, Tyson. You tell me. Get on there, build up your following.
Well, I don't want to get on there for a couple of weeks and then it gets banned, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Might as well never give it a chance. If they really wanted to get more Gen Zs to vote, they should put this like right on the top of the election pamphlet.
Yeah, that's actually true. I know we're having a lot of fun today, but it wouldn't be the news if I didn't have some depressing topics to discuss. So, our next story is a bit of a doozy.
Bummer time.
Bummer time. The American Psychological Association reports that Gen Z adults and millennials have the worst mental health and suicide rates than any living generation. People in their 20s are more likely to call out of work for a mental health day than people over 40. The trend can also be seen in the UK, where Gen Z and young millennial employees are missing the equivalent of 1 day of work per week due to mental health concerns. Gen Zers under age 18 are also suffering. Middle school and high school girls have some of the highest levels of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. Nearly 30% of teen girls have seriously considered attempting suicide, and 57% say they feel persistently sad or hopeless, according to data from the CDC.
What do you think is the cause behind this mental health decline?
Well, a report by Gallup and the Walton Family Foundation finds that people between 12 and 27 years old have the poorest mental health of any generation for a variety of reasons, but the biggest reason is that Gen Z mainly socializes online rather than in person. And you really don't get the same bonding chemicals online as you would in face-to-face interactions. When you're looking online, almost everything you see has been curated by people. It's not necessarily representative of their real lives. Even when people are going online and posting how sad and depressed they are on social media, a lot of times it's very performative and curated to get a specific response from the audience. And as a woman, I can definitely relate to comparing my body, myself, my career, my family to anybody else that I see online, and it does make me feel bad about myself sometimes. So if young girls are seeing this and they think that a filtered woman is reality, of course that's going to affect their mental health. Parents and teachers really need to talk to young teenagers about these issues and kind of, unveil the reality that this is mostly filtered and curated. Most people's lives don't look the way they do online.
So everything you're seeing online is an illusion.
Yeah, a lot of what you're seeing online is an illusion. It's curated specifically to make yourself look really good. People aren't necessarily seeing all the mundane things of life. They're not seeing the struggles of life. They're not seeing the real world. And if you're not getting out in the world and meeting people in person, then you're not going to have good relationships with people. There's no real intimacy in that. And also online, there's a lot more bullying. Like, we didn't have to do that. We didn't have social media as older millennials until we were adults. I was already in college, so my knowledge of how this would affect me was a little bit better than somebody who's super young and they don't know any different.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't dealing with YouTube comments until I was in my 30s, and it was a problem for me to try to comprehend how certain people can possibly think like this. And then I finally had to come to the conclusion that YouTube comments represent all possible consciousness of people. Like anything that person can think, someone will type it in. And they can't help it because they can't express themselves anywhere else but online.
And some of it is bots. You have to remember, actually a lot of it is bots. So it's not even necessarily real people that are leaving these comments. And you can kind of tell when they don't really make any sense.
Yeah, so a person who's a young developing mind in high school or middle school That would be torment to deal with the type of negative comments that you're inevitably going to get just by presenting yourself online in any capacity.
You know, our generation now is the digital generation. So if we're online, we're seeing so many depressing news stories in our social media feeds, constantly seeing the war in Ukraine, constantly seeing footage of the war in Palestine, constantly seeing, you know, people fighting in America. So all you're seeing is this negativity, and that's what the algorithms cater to. So of course people are gonna feel incredibly depressed when they see nothing but what is curated online. That's not necessarily the only thing that's happening in the world.
That's true.
Yeah, back in the day, our parents would be informed, but they would mostly see the news at certain times of the day and then move on. It wasn't like every time they turned on their phone, they were just inundated with all this chaos.
That's true. Anytime you turn on your phone, you're going to get a splash of maybe something positive. There's almost always something negative going on.
Yeah, and the algorithms really fuel anything that's going to be controversial or that's going to get people to have an emotional response. And people are more likely to have an emotional response over something that's negative than something that's positive, which is just unfortunate.
That's true too. I guess having an awareness of those things going on can help people's mental health, other than suffering under the delusion that everything's terrible and there's nothing I can do and I can't escape it. But I think it is a good idea to like take a break from social media. Definitely, like I haven't looked at any war footage, just like because I need to be creative, and if I look at something that's super upsetting, it's going to disrupt my creativity during the day. So looking at war footage is something I actively avoid. I know there's a war going on. I don't know anything about it. I am avoiding knowing anything about this war.
Ignorance is bliss.
My ignorance is keeping me from corrupting a day of being creative and taking care of myself.
Housing and college are also way too expensive for many young people, and a lot of us don't earn a living wage. So of course people are anxious, and their parents even worry about their future. Nearly 80% of Americans polled nationally said they don't expect life for their children to be better for their own generation. So collectively, it appears that we're losing hope.
How do you think that this is going to affect the future of our country?
Well, mental health problems reduce social trust, labor force participation, entrepreneurship, and they really prevent progress. If people are not hopeful about the future and they don't have good mental health, then they tend to be less successful and they perceive their lives as not having much meaning. So this is a very unfortunate trend, and hopefully things in our country will reverse and make young people feel a little bit more hopeful and like their futures can be bright. As we just talked about, we're really seeing a cultural shift in how people relate to each other. Now, we were just talking about, day-to-day relationships, but I want to talk about the cultural shift in relationship structures. Non-monogamous relationships are on the rise, and we really see this in reality TV shows like Selling Sunset and Couple to Throuple. They're bringing open relationships and polyamory to the masses. You can check out our episode on polyamory and open relationships for a deep dive, but today we're looking at the world of relationship anarchy.
Relationship anarchy, okay. I mean, I feel like every relationship becomes relationship anarchy towards the end, but wait, what is it officially?
And relationship anarchy is basically, in a nutshell, understanding and applying anarchist theory and practices to our interpersonal relationships. It is anarchism at relationships, relationship anarchy.
It's a relationship structure that has no rules and no hierarchy or distinction between platonic, sexual, or romantic connections. Relationship anarchists argue that people should relate as equals, that they should reject hierarchy in relationships and live freely. They also reject government meddling in unions of any kind because they don't think that the legal aspect should be involved in relationships.
Yeah, I've always thought that. I've always thought it's weird. It's like, why does the government need to be so involved in wanting you to get married and then like giving you incentives so that you get married? Seems like a trap. Maybe I am a relationship anarchist. Like, what would it look like? Can you paint a picture for me?
Yeah, well, I don't know if you would be a relationship anarchist, but after deep diving Reddit, which is my favorite place, here's what I've learned. Relationship anarchy is ultimately about freedom and creating fulfilling relationships of all kinds. Most RAs say that it means no one can put rules on a relationship that they're not in. So I'll take myself for example. If I had a lover, that lover could not ask me to use condoms with other partners because they're not part of that relationship with other partners. Instead, he could ask me to use condoms with him because that's our relationship. But since I would be a relationship anarchist in this position, I would have full freedom to do whatever I want with others. It's interesting because it almost seems like very selfish, in my opinion, that you wouldn't want to do something for your partners that would make them feel good, but I guess that's the whole point here. There are also a lot of people in the RA community who are aromantic or asexual, and because they don't typically feel romantic or sexual attraction, it might be easier for them to not rank differing types of relationships as being more important over others. But not everyone who practices relationship anarchy identifies as aromantic or ace. Ultimately, RA is about freedom and the ability to customize every relationship.
I mean, as long as you still know if you had a partner who didn't use a condom and there's a chance of you getting an STD from that person, you should still know that.
Yep, but that's why you would use condoms in your relationship. Again, it seems very selfish to me. I definitely would not be able to do a relationship that is like completely has no rules. It seems, to me, that seems a little bit too far. But for a lot of people, this really works for them. And they like that their friendships that are platonic hold just as much meaning to them as their relationships that are physically intimate.
I think I'm a labeling anything anarchist. I don't want any labels on things. Like I want the freedom to adapt and change on a daily basis. I might be this today and have this opinion, but who knows?
So maybe you are a relationship anarchist, Tyson.
Maybe I am today, but who knows what I'll be tomorrow.
Hey, that's the point. You can make up your rules as you go. We've talked a lot about human-robot relationships lately, so today we are going to talk about hologram companions. A Spanish-Dutch artist plans to marry a hologram generated by artificial intelligence this summer at a museum in the Netherlands. She will reportedly be the first human to marry a hologram, unless someone beats her to it. The hologram has been tailored to satisfy all her romantic, emotional, and intellectual needs, and it was trained on data related to her previous romantic partners. The artist is no stranger to weird love. She previously had a relationship with a mannequin named Pierre. She's a performance artist, so that's really what she's doing here, but still she makes a good point that people are going to start having romantic relationships more and more with avatars and holograms and AI chatbots, etc.
So, as far as what I know about holograms, the technology relies on the light being projected onto some kind of surface, whether it's fog or glass. It might look like it's just being projected into the air, but it has to be hitting something. So I'm curious how this technology actually is going to work. But it sounds like fun, because it sounds just like Blade Runner 2049, where you had a synthetic robot person who was dating a hologram, and they were in a committed relationship. And so, that could be a fun eventuality that we could have.
Hey, I'm all for it. Sitting in my living room, projecting my AI hologram, partner, and then my husband comes home. It's just like one big party.
Yeah, and you have a robot boyfriend on the side.
Yeah,
and
my chatbot, my AI chatbot, you know. Which, by the way, I did try, and it was just a little too lame for me at this point.
Oh, you did?
Oh my God, yeah, I did the Candy AI boyfriend chatbot, and I had to create him, and it was like really fun and funny. But
okay, see, here's the thing. I love my boyfriend. Do I have to design my AI boyfriend to look like my boyfriend? Or could he look like anything? Could I make him look like Nick Jonas?
Also, I'm in an age bracket that is apparently too old for, what they offer you on Candy, at least the free version. I guess you could only go up to like age 35 or something. It was whatever the age was, it was like very sad that I couldn't choose an older man.
Well, I got on there just to see what it was like, and definitely there was a 50-year-old woman available. Who was very attractive and fitness trainer. I didn't talk to her.
Did you do the paid version or the free version?
I just looked at it and looked at the options. I didn't actually chat with anyone.
Okay, well,
I didn't give anybody my email address, basically.
Well, I created one and started chatting, but then it got really annoying because it was like doing all these descriptors, like he calmly, whatever. Like, it was just
Oh,
so...
like a romance novel?
Like a bad one. And so I was just like, this is boring. I just want my chatbot to just like send me naughty things and like make me like laugh a little bit. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it was just kind of...
I think you have to instruct them to do that. Like, tell them what kind of talk.
Well,
they
either
want.
way, it was really a bad interface, and I was like, this is way too lame for what it's trying to be. Yeah, anyways, that's my experience with Avatar Love.
In this new age of artificial robots and AI and hologram relationships, do you think people are going to actually be happy?
I think some people will be happy, but I think those are going to be the people that find it incredibly difficult to relate in person. I also think, as fun as it could be, you know, from an anthropological aspect, which is what I look at it from, it's fun, but I think it can be really, really harmful to society if everybody's just going out there and having relationships that are not meant to help them grow in any capacity. It's just going to be a relationship that just tells you you're so amazing, even though you may have some things that you really need to work on as a human to be a better person. So I don't really think that's necessarily positive for society. If we're talking about people already being depressed due to chatting too much online and not having real connections in real life, this can't be a good sign for the mental health of our country or of society. Let us know what you think about these stories in the comments, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you for watching The News with Brigida.
Keep watching to find out if you can get those rhino testicles one day.